Hi, I'm Wannabe Hero. Quell has created and designed many toons, each with their respective stats and abilities. But like with most games, not everything is designed equally, and therefore some toons are much better than others. So to better explain that, I'm going to be placing each toon on an ordered tier list. Here are the rules. This tier list will consider floor 50 plus runs with more experienced players in mind. Non-serious runs such as casual runs, solo runs or fun runs will not be considered. This tier list presumes the player has access to every toon and trinket. This includes the event toons. I will use V-Mote and Magnifying Glass for extractors and supports, and Dog Plush and Speedy Shoes for distractors, with few exceptions. And without further ado, let's go! We'll first start in F tier. These toons are so laughably bad that it actually makes me cringe in disappointment. The toons here either contribute nothing, or their niche is so specialised that it doesn't change their tier. In other words, never choose a toon that's in here, as they suck harder than my grandma's vacuum cleaner. Dandy's World has some really useless toons down in F tier, but they're all so bad in their own way that it's very difficult to rank the absolute worst. But if I had to choose one that has to rank at the very bottom, there could only be one. When it comes to the most terrible toon of all, that accolade has to go to Scraps. What on earth were Blush Crunch thinking when they gave Scraps this awful stat spread? She's a cat! Why is her stamina so high, but her movement speed so low? Her 5-star stamina is basically a deadweight stat without any movement speed, and is something that kills all of this toon's viability. Her ability allows you to pull yourself to toons and machines every 25 seconds, but at that point, why not just use a 4-star movement speed toon? With a useless ability, below average extraction speed, and a kit that's worse than 2 times before the rework, Scraps is the equivalent of putting all of your skill points into the wrong places, then trying to play the game on the hardest difficulty. All you need to do is look at those stats and immediately you will realise just how awful Connie is. Her movement speed is so bad that all the twisters can catch up to you in panic mode, and the only way you can save yourself is to use your ability, which hardly ever works by the way, or you're forced to lead them to someone else because you have no stamina left. That reminds me, your stealth is 5! Why do you need an ability to hide yourself when you already have the highest stealth? A distractor can easily take a twisted from you even with 3 stealth, making your toon as bad as the other F tiers, but worse since you take so long to reach and extract machines without any benefit. What a low tier toon this is. Blush Crunch really went with character development in mind over game balance, and if people consider you a griefer because you are so slow you can't get away from the twisted and need someone to save you, then you are a toon that seriously needs to be buffed. Here's a rhetorical question for you. Why even use Poppy? If Poppy is supposed to be a starter toon, then why is her survivability so abysmal? No wonder it's so tough for many new players to access the game. It's the only toon that is so bad and such a meme, people always tell you to go away when you try to use her. There's already a starting extractor named Boxton, so Poppy should be a starting distractor too, right? Wrong! Instead, she has middling stats across the board, i.e. a terrible stat spread, since it's always better to put all your stats into extracting or distracting instead of trying to put stats in both. Again, Poppy has the same underlying issue as Scraps. Why increase your movement speed upon getting hit when you can just pick a toon who always moves at that speed? Poppy is a toon that needs a major buff more than anything, especially to help most newer players that never survive past round 7. I think we all know what is coming next on the list, but I bet most of you would have thought it came earlier. Shrimpo is designed to be F tier, so I'm not going to complain about it too much. Having 1-star stats on everything can be a painful but interesting challenge. However, Shrimpo does have one use that prevents him from being the lowest on the list. His stealth is so bad, he can actually be the team's decoy to save people. Think Blot's ability, but better and controllable. It's surprisingly effective too, and if you stack movement items to protect yourself, this strategy can be a useful asset. However, it's not useful enough to keep him out of F tier. Here's another rhetorical question for you. Why does Eggson, with a walking cane and being an elder, run faster than the worst toon on this list? Better yet, why is he yet another toon with 3-star stats across the board and a useless ability? The amount of completion time is so small that you're better off playing as Roger, as he actually extracts faster without needing anything. You may start to see a trend here. Like I said earlier, having stats that are jack of all trades is much worse than pouring all eggs into one basket is a sign of a bad toon, as it's much better for extractors to put everything into extracting, and for distractors to put everything into distracting. Trying to do both at once means you'll just be bad at both roles. Toodles just irks me from a game design standpoint. If Blush Crunch designed her like Chance from Forsaken and made her ability's effects way stronger, then her ability would be a great idea. But 15% on a random stat is just terrible, and doesn't make the toon fun in any way. They should buff the 15% boost to 100%, so she can play differently depending on what boost she gets, because as of now, her ability is almost completely useless. This would actually be a fun playstyle, but until Blush Crunch makes this change, Toodles is a total missed opportunity and belongs in F tier. This is another toon that I won't complain about, as he is designed to indirectly teach beginners how to be good at Dandy's World. Roger is an interesting toon in the gameplay standpoint. Still bad, but he needs to be for players to improve their hiding skills, and at least he has the extraction speed to outperform the other twos in this tier. If his skill check was better, then he'd be higher. But I think high F tier is the perfect spot for this guy. Well done, Blush Crunch, you actually made a great game design choice here. The final toon in F tier is another toon with mid stats, but the dash ability at least gives it slightly better speed to reach machines. Rudy is the first Christmas toon in the low tiers, but definitely not the last. Because why not create a toon that plays exactly like Poppy, but with a dash that barely does anything? Flutter has the same ability, but is saved by better stats, and is a toon we'll get to later on in this list. Next we're going to D tier. These toons are still bad, and I question Blush Crunch's terrible game design choices. Again, anything in this tier you should never use, but they do have one or two niches that upgrade them from F tier, which isn't saying much. There really is nothing to say when it comes to Tegan. You're like most low tier toons due to the middle of the road stats, but worse since you gain a weaker stat and lose a stronger one. Normally Tegan would be F tier, but tapes are so abundant and of little value that you can buy from the shop while hardly ever running out of ability uses. An ability that heals you. Being able to heal yourself is actually quite decent, as it means it's one less person for your healer to worry about. It's this ability alone that allows her to just about squeeze into D tier. Bobette has to be the most disappointing main in the entire game. It has Scraps' awful stat spread for some reason, and then when you get into a tough situation, which will happen due to her stats, you can hide in a box. No stats for extracting, no abilities that help the team, just an ability that you can't cancel on command, which means if a twist is still there, you're still going to get hit when the ability ends. Even worse, you only have 2 hearts, which makes surviving even more difficult. I did find one niche though. The only reason why she's using an F tier is because her box is good for gathering slower twisteds for the distractor. But what's the point in that, where you can just be an extractor and learn how to pass twisteds properly? Or play as someone with higher stealth? This stat spread just confuses me. You have a 4-star extraction speed and 3-star skill check, just like Roger. Then a 1-star stealth? Seriously? Brightly is such a hit and miss for me. She's such a low tier toon that the only people I've seen use Brightly is to complete her mastery in order to get V. Despite this, she still has decent strats for an extractor, and can use her abysmally low stealth to save people. But what really drags her down is her ability. Yes, Brightly can help people see in blackouts, but you know what else does that? Turning up the brightness on your monitor! And even if you can't, all you need is a distractor that can see well in blackouts, and this ability becomes useless. Being able to find twisteds in the dark and the ability to save others are still nice to have though, so it's enough to make it into D tier. Coco is just like Toodles in how it has a really great ability game design wise, but spoiled by how underpowered it is. The Bonbon just doesn't provide enough stats and doesn't last long enough to be considered worthwhile. Why would a Yatta, for instance, want such a short extraction boost when she's better off collecting the candy from the ground? Why would a Pebble want a short movement speed buff if they can already distract everything without ever needing stamina? If her extraction speed was any good, she'd easily be in B tier, but because it's so low, it's faster to just use another Yatta than rely on Coco's useless Bonbon. The Bonbon should honestly be twice as long and strong, because 50% extraction speed and 25% speed for 4 seconds is just not enough for such an exclusive item. Now we're in C tier. These toons are average in every way. They're still not meta and are definitely outclassed, but at least they're still somewhat useful on a less serious team, or have an ability that really helps them once in a blue moon. It's at this point that you start to see toons that could help make your team stronger. Pebble's brother comes next with Cole. Already the third Christmas toon on this list, Cole's only at C tier due to his 4-star movement speed, which is decent for distracting. His ability is completely redundant if you just memorize every place items can spawn, so he's essentially a middle-of-the-road distractor with nothing else going for him. If you want a distractor though, he's an option, but there are slightly better and more available distractors in this tier for you to use. The next toon is another distractor, but way better than his sister due to one thing: Goob's 4-star movement speed. Being fast is useful for distracting, since you can outwalk most Twisteds, but unfortunately the fastest distractors still outclass Goob, as they can do his job better. Goob is also similar to Cole in that he too has a useless ability. Why would anyone think pulling someone to you is a good ability when you're the one distracting? Yes, you can pull toons into the elevator, but the distractor is supposed to be the last toon in the elevator anyway, so what's the point? The only reason why Goob is ever so slightly higher than Cole is because of his lower stealth. Having lower stealth isn't too important, as players can just hide behind walls and do machines in different areas, but in the rare cases that someone is caught off guard, it can make distracting easier. Therefore, low C tier is definitely the best spot. The newest toon on this list is Blot, who plays like Cole and Goob in every single way, absolutely hard carried by his strong distracting stats with a useless ability. Why doesn't his ability attract all toons instead of just one? All you are doing is just making distracting harder for yourself, and you may not even target the correct Twisted! Overall, Blot is not a toon you should spend so much effort in trying to buy, as there are cheaper and much better alternatives. Gotta sweep, sweep, sweep our way to the next toon on the list, and just like Cole, Goob and Blot, Tisha lands in C tier solely for having a 4-star movement speed. However, because her ability doesn't work on herself, she has a good skill check and her stamina is low, Tisha is better as a backup distractor, giving the main distractor a speed boost as she passes the Twisteds, then working on machines. What makes her better than the previous toons is her ability. It can be great at the start of the floor, making it quicker for everyone to reach machines and gather Twisteds. Just be mindful of your stamina. Flight is just like Tisha in every way, but slightly better. Both are decent distractors, both have a movement ability that boosts movement speed, and both are in mid-C tier. The only reason why Flight slightly trumps Tisha is because Flight can boost himself whilst Tisha cannot. By placing a gust in the place you're distracting, you can re-enter it and regain the speed buff, therefore outperforming Tisha's ability despite the slightly stronger stat buff Tisha has, due to the speed effect lasting twice as long on average. Nothing much else to say about this toon really. Again, there's not much more I can say currently in this tier, as it's mostly 4-star movement speed distractors with little difference between them. Flutter is the last of these. Distractors are the meta right now, so being a decent distractor hard carries the toon. The dashing is great for stamina conservation, which improves distracting by quite a fair bit. So Flutter is placed higher on this list than all the other distractors in this tier. Just don't dash into the Twisteds. GG is a great way to practice stamina management. 100 stamina is low, but if you're experienced enough and only run if you're above 50 stamina, then you should be able to overcome it. Besides that, the extraction speed GG gets is really strong. With just 2 skill check candies, you are guaranteed skill checks every single time, which is enough to keep up with the best extractors. The ability is decent as well. I mostly get extraction items with it, so when I used them all at the same time, I was completing machines incredibly quickly. Taking a while to reach machines and having weak survivability is a massive sacrifice however, so it's not good enough for B tier, but it's definitely a solid extracting option nonetheless. When I saw this toon's stats and ability, I never expected him to make it into high C tier, but the speed boost that Fint gets when any machine is completed is way more useful than I previously thought. If 2 or more people finish a machine, which often happens when there are V-motes, you run ludicrously fast, which is great for completing machines quickly and perfectly complements his above average extraction speed. This can also be timed by priming a machine, then activating it right as another machine completes, so you have a lot of control over when you want the massive speed boost. Overall, quite a good extractor with great survivability, and can even help gather Twisteds once a V-mote has been used. Definitely a solid option, and was ever so close to moving up a tier had the ability's effects lasted longer. B tier is when we start getting into the more useful toons. You should start to see toons with both good stats and abilities at this point, and everything from here on out is a pick worth considering. I'd still pick an A or S tier over these, however. Buxton has to be the most underrated toon in the entire game. Yes, his stats are bad, but his ability is extremely good for a starter toon. This isn't even the full team, so it could be even faster, and look how fast I'm extracting. This is equivalent to a 5-star extraction speed, which is insane if you get lucky with the skill checks. If you are a starter, equip the blue bandana and wrench, buy Buxton, and use him whenever you can. He can be used and be helpful all the way until you can afford the toons higher on this list. Gliston as a toon looks good on paper, but in practice really misses the mark. You'd think having great extraction speed, then teleporting to other machines would be great. But then you realise its pitiful range and the minus 75% extraction debuff you get upon using it, and you start to realise the limitations Gliston has. At least you can escape with it, but if you know what you're doing, then this scenario should never happen. So why even B tier then? Simple, the 5-star extraction speed hard carries the toon. Even without the ability, extracting fast is very important, and it's the reason why Gliston is at the tier he is. Just play safe and avoid the twisteds, and you'll be fine. Razzle and Dazzle is probably the hardest toon to rank on this list. If you're playing in a public run, they'd be lower, but with an organised team that plays around you, you have a very effective toon. Or is it Toons? Are they 2 people? I don't know anymore. If you wish to build your toons as an extractor, then you have one of the fastest extractors in the game half of the time, but the best way to build them is as a swap distractor. Equip the dog plush and clown horn, then watch as you distract every toon except Twisted Pebble, then collect any extraction items on the odd floors to make up any deficits on the even floors. This is quite an effective strategy. Not good enough for the higher tiers, since you can't focus on one specific playstyle throughout a run, but still surprisingly high tier for what it offers. We're now at the A tier, and everything from here on out are considered really good toons and a solid pick in high floor runs. You won't see the strongest players use them, as that's what the S tier is for, but any toons here can still contribute greatly. I really like Yatta. She's one of the best extractors in the game in my opinion, with a great ability to boot. If you have a distractor that struggles with stamina, she is great for giving Pebbles box of chocolates, and any other candies you create can be picked up for yourself to increase the drop amount even more. Her stealth and stamina is low, but even if you are seen, her movement speed allows her to walk most twisters anyway. Just make sure to watch your line of sight, V-mode at the middle instead of fake elevator, and watch where the candy drops, and you're all set. In terms of easy to acquire toons, nothing quite compares to Louie. Movement speed is the most powerful stat in Dandy's world, and Louie has it in spades. He is so fast that with 1 heart, the dog plush and clown horn / ribbon spool, he can outwalk Twisted Pebble. That accolade alone should explain how he's a really great distractor, and is enough to bring him up to the upper tiers. There's one tiny problem that doesn't put him in S tier. 1 heart. You need 2 hearts to distract most twisteds, and 1 heart to distract almost all of them, so 1 mistake and you're toast. Run's over. Try to predict when you're about to be hit by using a heal ahead of time, and you shouldn't have any trouble. Otherwise, keep at 2 hearts and only go to 1 for tricky combos. Louie is a very difficult toon to use, due to being unable to rely on a healer, but when mastered, can ultimately carry teams. Wow, has Astro fallen from grace. I remember when Astro was an S tier, and used in almost every serious team, but now you hardly ever see her unless it's a lower floor requirement. Her stats may be F tier terrible, but her abilities far outweigh this downside. The fact that the stamina regeneration ability perfectly complements the distractor meta already boosts this toon to the higher tiers, and her other ability helps with that somewhat. However, she's the second worst main toon for a few reasons. 1. Her stealth may be great for doing machines in tough spots, but all a distractor needs to do is move, and this becomes pointless. Secondly, if your distractor is really good, they don't even need the stamina to begin with. I can't deny that Astro has an amazing ability, however, and that alone is good enough for low A tier. There are only 2 more non-main toons left, and the fact that they're this high up speaks volumes to how good healers are in video games. Cosmo has such a terrible stat spread, yet that doesn't matter since you can carry entire runs with your healing ability. Your Distractor has 1 heart but no heals? Heal them and you've saved the entire run. Cosmo's ability is so good that even serious main-only teams will consider you in the run if you know how to stay alive. If you're a new player and want to join serious runs, he's the perfect, easy-to-acquire toon for getting to high floors early. Putting Cosmo in A tier is a given, and the only reason why he isn't any higher is because there are other healers that surpass him. Despite that, having a healer on your team is incredibly valuable, and you won't be holding your team back if you use this toon. Bassie is quite a misunderstood toon. People seem to only use her as a pack mule without realizing her true strength and versatility. Firstly, her stealth and speed allow her to run to distractors quickly and give them healing items without being noticed. But if you place the healing item at the distracting spot beforehand, if the distractor gets hit, it's even faster than a healer, and Bassie could then take over distracting until the distractor regains its stamina back. Which leads into a second strength, her stats. Despite having high stealth, as long as the team keeps away from you, Bassie is a great distractor, and with the dog plush and bone, she becomes the fastest distractor in the game. It's very difficult, but possible to distract Twisted Pebble with other Twisteds together by leaving items on the ground in a circle, then picking them up and dropping them as you go. This toon is a great example on how focusing stats on key strengths is vastly superior to trying to be a master of none. Also, please make the F key a toggle instead of automatically switching off when I drop an item, I swear to gosh bunch crap. When it comes to the more overlooked toons in this tier, nothing comes close to Vee. So many teams push her away as a bad toon without seeing the bigger picture. You have the fastest extractor in the game, provided you stay by the elevator, and an incredible ability that seriously helps the team figure out how a new floor is tackled. Reconnaissance is very powerful in video games, and knowing where the Twisteds are at the start of the floor provides great information for your team. You could use footsteps to determine a Twisted's location, but if the map is large and they're out of range, your ears can only do so much. But Vee? She doesn't care. As with one button press, you will see every Twisted regardless of their position. Her second ability isn't too useful if you follow a predetermined path to each machine, but the first ability alone catapults her straight to S tier. So what's holding her back from reaching said tier? Her stealth. Vee's 2-star stealth is the crux of the matter, and has ended serious runs time and time again. It's happened so much that teams decided to forego Vee and learn how to tackle a floor by using ears alone. But if a world record team could figure out how to handle Vee's stealth shortcoming, it's the most likely toon to be used in world record teams in the future, which is why she takes the spot at high A tier. S tier, the creme of the crop, and the toons pretty much every serious team uses. Because of how disgustingly overpowered they are, there is literally no point in picking any of the toons unless you're looking for an additional challenge. Out of everything in this video, these are the toons I would recommend Quell to nerf whenever possible. Starting in S tier, we have the second healer we've talked about thus far, Ginger. There's often a debate that spirals around whether Ginger or Cosmo is better, and it's Ginger in every way possible. Despite only having one eye, her vision range is incredible, meaning she can heal people at times when other healers can't, and essentially has a weaker Sprout's second ability due to the highlighting of injured toons. She may only be able to heal when she has heals of her own, but even when not healing she can still extract due to having a much better stat spread than Cosmo. Cosmo may have a much shorter cooldown, but all of Ginger's other upsides make Cosmo completely obsolete in most serious teams. Ginger is so strong that Dream Team, who reached floor 506, actually use a Ginger on their squad. The meta is changing however. As players get better at Dandy's world, needing 2 healers is starting to become less ideal in favour of more extractors. As the toon that's most likely to be demoted to A tier one day, she is therefore being placed at the bottom of S tier. So much healing, only held back by a long cooldown and a penalty for having more than one of this toon. Sprout has insanely stacked abilities and stats for what he has. With an experienced team, it's possible to get 100 tapes, enough for a heal, every 2 floors or 1 floor in the late game. This is outrageous, especially knowing that Sprout doesn't need to sacrifice a heart to heal someone. Better still, they have an ability that lets them see everyone on the map, which means Sprout is great for typing EAE for the team. And, as if that wasn't enough, Sprout also has good distracting stats, so they can work as a backup distractor in a pinch, and can kite Twisted Pebble if needed. Such overpowered abilities and stats all in one complete package. It should be of no surprise that Sprout takes S tier and 3rd place. So, there are 2 more Toons left. Which will be number 1, and which will take the runner-up prize? It's time to find out! The amount of speed Shelly can provide to floor clearing is incredible. With a team full of Shellys and V-motes, you can run from one area to another in a blink of an eye. Shelly's stats and first ability help with that, giving her the best extraction stats in the game. Yes, V is better at extracting than Shelly if it's only one machine, but when utilizing a duo strat and completing entire floors quickly, no other extractor comes close. Her stamina is low, but the movement speed buff Shelly gets completely counters it, and it allows for her to even distract any Twisted for a brief period of time. What an unbelievable combination of abilities to have. As the best extractor in the game without any downsides whatsoever, this is why she reaches number 2 on this list. But that means there can only be one winner. And it's a toon so overpowered, so overwhelmingly busted that the whole metagame is warped around it. Toons, Twisteds, and even Trinkets are tiered based on the sheer power of this toon alone. If anything needs a nerf, it's this. Why, it's Dandy, of course! Literally 5 stars on everything? Look at those petals. I mean, that's literally top tier if you ask me. Jokes aside, let's talk about the true best toon in Dandy's world. Pebble is an absolute powerhouse of a toon. The 5-star movement speed is a godsend, and the tiny hitbox makes it very hard to hit you. With the right trinkets, it's possible to distract every single combo in the game, except for one, all at the same time and regardless of the map. And that's why Pebble is the best toon by such a wide margin. All it takes is for a good distractor to gather all the Twisteds, and you can complete any floor regardless of what your toon and stats are. The Bark ability can be useful for this. You can use it to save people in a pinch, or to gather Twisteds quickly. But the second ability is useless if you learn where every item's spawn point is. Still, this downside is nowhere near enough to dethrone the king of Dandy's world. Even F tiers are able to play the game thanks to this distractor, and if one toon has the ability to make any other toon viable, they're more than deserving of the number 1 spot. And that's the tier list! I think it's very clear to all of us that Dandy's world has such a terrible balancing issue, and this tier list should tell you why. Let me know which toons you would place in your lists in the comments, and I'll see you all next week. Thanks everyone!